My Hero Academia's Season 4 premiere happened just this weekend at Anime Expo 2019, and man, was I pumped. I went all the way down there to go see this premiere, and it was, whoa, what are you, no, no. Ah!
Or so he thought. Unfortunately for him, he didn't get to see it. 'Cause I did. That's right, I'm back with my greatest scheme yet. I stole his ticket and sat in on the world premiere of My Hero Academia Season 4 at Anime Expo 2019. It was great, for all the anime nerds in the room. But let me tell you, the whole thing started with a line, a very long line, that worked like the worst game of Snake that I have ever played. Because even when I tried to get a game over by bumping into my fellow sardines, it never ended. This line lasted for 2 hours, and I wasn't even there at the beginning of it. They eventually let me in, checking my wrist to ensure the band on it had not been tampered with. Signs posted told everyone they could not have food or drink in the premiere. Who wants to watch anime without food? The Expo workers told us no photography or recording of any kind was allowed. Then, I was in the room. It was dark with red lights shining on the crowd. That part was actually kinda cool. I was digging the black and red. However, by the time I got in, all the best seats were taken. They were taken before the line had even begun to move, because they considered me general audience. That's right, the other guy couldn't swing for special service, which I really wanted to steal from him. I wound up on a seat somewhere in the middle with heads of tall hair in front of me. This meant I had to crane my neck in an awkward direction like an owl to see what was going on. Kept poking out like I was playing a peekaboo game with the people on stage. Speaking of that, I show up to watch a fantastic show about fiction, and they decide they want to throw reality in my face. They brought up the lady that does the voices for both Hagakure and Mount Lady in Japanese. She was followed by the English voices of Dabi, Mirio, Overhaul, Kirishima, Shoto, and his father Endeavor. During this panel, they were asked questions by Lauren Moore from Funimation. These questions included what these voice actors hope to see in Season 4, spoilers excluded of course, though a few things were implied. Other questions were if they identified with the characters they voiced and what they do to get in character. My biggest disappointment was that the voice of Overhaul wasn't a villain in the real world. It broke my heart! Though I enjoyed Endeavor's voice actor's answer to what he did to get into character. He said that he just drove up to schools to look at random children in the eyes and tell them, and I quote, "You suck! You're weak!" It was an amusing thought, until he tacked on that he was only joking. Another interesting question was if they had a particularly memorable experience from working on the show. The Japanese voice actor told a story about the guy that does the voice for All Might. For one scene, he had to yell and follow it up with Plus Ultra. Well, he got so into it that he yelled hard enough to pass out. Just dropped to the floor. He was fine, but it surprised those that were there. A grand story, but Sean Schemmel did it first. He passed out while doing the voice of Super Saiyan 4 Goku in Dragon Ball GT. Still shows the dedication that these voice actors have to make your fiction believable. Another interesting thing that I noted was that the actor that voices Overhaul said he was going to this expo ever since he was 13. He always thought that one day he'd be up on stage, and there he was. He told the crowd that he actually auditioned for 2 separate parts, Overhaul and Tamaki of the Big 3. He was just getting over bronchitis when he did both of those. The director of the show, Colleen, told him that they wanted him to voice Overhaul, but with the voice that he had used to audition for Tamaki. When he finally went to do some of the recording, he was completely done being sick. However, he still had to find that huskiness the bronchitis had lent him during the audition to do so. And so now, whenever he goes to voice Overhaul, he has to do warm-ups to find that husky part of his voice. Ugh, enough about reality. Let's talk about why I really went to the premiere, the show itself. It opened with a recap, like I needed that. I mean, who didn't binge every episode until now, in sheer anticipation of this event? Oh right, me. Well, thanks for that, I guess. As it began, the energy of the crowd was palpable. The cheers and clapping were loud. Be warned, I will now be discussing the episode I saw. If you wish to avoid any potential spoilers, now is the time to get out of the video. I will give you until the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. The following scene was a meeting of evil that ended in bloodshed, a glorious scene to be sure. Even with the crowd screaming in my ear, this was my favorite scene. Overhaul and Shigaraki came face to face for the first time, and their views did not align, as Overhaul found him to be offering a goal without a plan. Something Overhaul said means that it was only a wish. In a brilliant display of how to use your minions, Overhaul clashed with the League of Villains. I have to say it was awesome, and I agree with Overhaul. A villain has gotta have a master plan. From there we move on to Midoriya, as he tries to get All Might to introduce him to Sir Night-Eye. He wants to do his work study under the former sidekick of his mentor. His mentor refuses, and while he gives 3 reasons, it really comes down to his personal feelings. All Might isn't ready to face Sir Night-Eye after the outcome of recent events. Thus, we see All Might, Midoriya, and Mirio all sitting down to have a chat. For those of you who like pleasant things, it would have been a pleasant scene. In the end, Mirio agrees to introduce his lower-classmen to Sir Night-Eye, as Mirio is currently interning for the hero. We then segue to the two entering the building of Sir Night-Eye's agency. Mirio tells Midoriya that the way to really ensure that he gets to work under Sir Night-Eye is to make him laugh. Once they get upstairs, and Midoriya stands before the man, he does an impression of All Might's face. It doesn't go over very well, as he finds out that Sir Night-Eye may be an even bigger fan than Midoriya. He proceeds to criticize the impression for not being good enough, and tells Izuku to get out. But then Midoriya says that his impression is of one specific and slightly obscure event. The two fans proceed to geek out about All Might after that. Ugh, why do heroes get all the fans? We villains work really hard, too. Without us, your heroes would be useless. After that, and they're done oozing all over the All Might love, Sir Night-Eye refuses to stamp the work-study contract. He states that he understands the benefits for Midoriya, but not for his own agency. If Izuku wants the contract stamped, he's going to have to take the seal from Sir Night-Eye and stamp it himself. He's given 3 minutes to complete this task. The protagonist tries for a minute to get the seal and realizes that the hero can predict his every move. Sir Night-Eye then explains that All Might made the wrong choice when he passed his power on to Deku. It was supposed to go to Mirio, a person much more worthy than this quirkless kid. Midoriya takes this in and uses it as fuel. He determines that he should just move too fast for Sir Night-Eye to even react. Then, before we see the outcome of this fight for a stamp, it ends with a cliffhanger. The crowd, of course, went wild. It was indeed a good episode, especially for a premiere. Full of hype fuel for what is to come, and just enough tease to make a person want more. But the whole time I was wishing that I was sitting in my lair rather than an exhibit room, where the only cheering voice was my own. I should have just hacked into the camera feeds. Then I could have sat back in my chair eating Funyuns and drinking Mountain Dew. Well, that's all I've got for you guys. If you guys saw the premiere, do not comment about it, because I really don't care. And whatever you do, never subscribe to this guy. Don't hit that bell. And definitely don't like this video. Well, I was in it. Like the video. Because you like me.